Hey everybody. We're now going to, so far the first couple weeks we've been really looking just at sort of getting our handle on the grammar and the grammar terminology. But, grammar by itself is not really I mean, that's an important part, but we also want to look at the teaching of grammar. Now, all of you come from a real variety of backgrounds and a variety of authentic teaching environments. So, I'm going to present you with some ideas here, but I want you to be thinking about how these things will uh, sort of play out with the students that you know or the students that you anticipate working with, and what kind of modifications you might want to do. But I think a lot of these principles are very good. So let's look. So um, some folks have suggested that it's good to introduce grammar topics in these four phases. First, doing presentation, then giving focused practice, where you're really noticing the forms, then going into communicative practice, and then providing them with feedback and correction on the way that they've done their focused and communicative practice. Now, the first part where you're going to sort of introduce whatever the grammar topic is. Let's say, for example, there is and there are. And it can be something where you are presenting them with the rule and then moving from there, or you're going to present them with how language is used and allow them to sort of create their own rules or try to start noticing what's going on. Uh, a lot of this, it's very dry. Let's use a nice word, dry, if you just present things as grammar. So you want to be thinking about how can you combine this with other types of material, whether it's things that are related to earlier material in the class, or if it's related to things that work that have an impact in their life outside of class. And since we're dealing with ESL, a lot of their lives outside of class are really going to have, there's a great impact there in terms of English. So it's really important that you try to identify some sort of focus activity that's not strictly grammar, and sort of getting the students involved and energized by that, because grammar by itself is a hard sell. um, the other thing is you want to try to remember to go from receptive knowledge to the productive knowledge. So the first thing you want them to be able to do is to understand it when they see it or hear it, to notice it when they see it or hear it, and then they can move to actually producing uh, the target grammar point. So, and then in the focus practice, it should be really clear that what they're looking at is that form that you're looking at. So, for example, for there is, there are, the focus practice will really be highlighting that and how that's used and what the what are the options that they have when they use it, when it's appropriate, when it's not. And you want to try to present it still in context, the structure as well as its functions. Um, and it's good to go from general to specific, and then also, as we mentioned just a minute ago, from receptive to productive. And once you've started them actually using the form, then you may want to try to, I think you should expand it to communicative practice. And that's where you think about what are the real life situations uh, that would that form is used in. So, for example, there is and there are, where would people actually be using that? And you can think about that in general terms. You can think about it. You can think about it in terms of your own situation, but you can also try to think about it from the perspective of your students. And that's really where your knowledge of the student group that you're working with is so critical. Uh, and you can also, as you're doing this, you know, integrate it into your sort of larger grammar as well as your larger communicative curriculum. So that if, for example, you've had them working on the vocabulary of households. Uh, you can start to have them use this grammar structure with that vocabulary. Uh, And then it's really useful that present them with something that's really guided, and the 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 tasks that you're asking them to do are very clearly stated, and in a sense they're in isolation. And then you move it more into that full production. And then another issue, and this is an issue for an entire course, but it's very important, is giving feedback and correction. Um, and you know, this statement that you see on the screen, I think, is a really wonderful one, because you're looking at, when you're identifying what students are not doing, that's useful if they're doing it incorrectly. But what's really nice is to try and then figure out, if you're able to identify either through experience with previous students or with the actual group of students you're working with, you see what are the things that you think they'll have trouble with, and sort of address it even before they've had to start producing it. And that comes in part with experience with the student population you work with, but also just understanding the kinds of things that are more problematic, based on different issues that different learner groups have. So that's a little bit, we're going to be looking at this, of course, throughout the semester, but I wanted you to have this as it's now time to start thinking about that first pedagogical exercise. Please let me know if you have any questions.